It's time for Ask Zach. This is the segment that I use to end every single podcast. People who support me on Patreon, patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. You can give $1 a month. You can give more if you want. I'm trying to get my own place and have a studio and do far better than this on the show. So please, if you want to give me more money, I love your money. But if you give $1 a month, what it does is give you access to submit questions on Patreon. You can send them to me through Patreon DMs. You can send them to me you can comment on Patreon posts. I only accept questions through Patreon. And I will not guarantee that if you send a question, I will read it on the show, but I guarantee I will look at it with my eyeballs, and then I pick the best couple questions and talk about them on my podcast, Strong Opinion Sports. That's, I guess, you know what that is because you're here listening. I don't know what it's weird to try to hit all the points and say the right stuff, and I don't know, it's whatever. I want to start. My first question is from Jack about Utah football. Jack says this. He says, "Hey Zach, cheers from the University of Utah. What do you think of our title chances? What do you think our title chances are this year, and why? Our defense is looking stellar as expected, and we are 3-0. Just curious on your opinion." So, by the way, Utah's playing USC right now at 7:30. Right now, the game I think just started at 7:30. Well, first of all, Jack, I'm actually going to Utah next weekend. Next weekend, I am broadcasting at the Utah-Washington State football game. I'll be in Salt Lake City. If you're there, Jack, and you want to say hi, dude, say hi. I'm happy to. That'd be really, really cool. It's going to be awesome, by the way. I'm really excited for that opportunity to broadcast a football game. That is unbelievable. I'm so excited. I think Utah has a chance to win the Pac-12. If you think that Utah has a chance to get a national title, Jack, I'm sorry. I think, whatever you're drinking or smoking down in Salt Lake City, I love some of that because I don't think that's ever going to happen. Now, especially though, I think definitely that because University of Washington lost to Cal earlier in the year, that gives Utah a special opportunity, and they have a great chance to win the Pac-12. Assuming they got to win tonight, right? Tonight, if they lose to USC, it's all over. So I might be dating this podcast by putting it before then, but I'm operating on the assumption that USC, in fact, loses to Utah. Utah has a great defense. I like their quarterback. He's gained a lot of muscle. He's really fast. He's a great runner. And I love Utah's program. I love their head coach, Kyle Whittingham. I think Kyle Whittingham is one of the most stand-up college coaches in the entire NCAA. I really like how he operates his program, and I'd love to play for him. He's a great guy. So assuming that Utah beats USC tonight, they have a great chance to win the Pac-12. They have zero chance to win a national title. And the reason is because they cannot hang with teams like Clemson and Alabama or Oklahoma. They are 3-0, and congratulations. But the three teams they've beaten to go 3-0 are BYU, Northern Illinois, and FCS Idaho State. That's not very impressive. It's like, oh, wow, you went 3-0. You played an FCS team and you beat two crappy college teams. Congratulations. So I'm really sorry, but the best Utah can do is win a Pac-12 championship. They have no chance to win a national title. Jack, I think that's a realistic way to. That's realistic expectations. Now, in a scenario where Utah goes undefeated, they win the Pac-12, then yeah, they might have a chance to get into the college football playoff. But even then, whoever they play is going to blow them out. It's not going to end well for them. So I think if you're a Utah fan, what you really want is to not make the college football playoff. You want to win the Pac-12, get a great bowl game, a bowl game you can win, like one of those, New Year's Six bowl. That'd be awesome. Get a New Year's bowl and then have something to celebrate at the end of the year. Because Jack, I care for you in your heart. And what I don't want is you to get smacked by Clemson 49-7. That'd be sad. And you don't deserve that as a fan. I think what you should hope for, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But what I hope for you is that Utah wins the Pac-12, gets a New Year's bowl game, gets slighted and doesn't make it into the college football playoff, and then gets to win a bowl game on New Year's Day. That's a great ending to their season, and that's, I think, the very best outcome that Utah football can have. Because, again, what you don't want is to be Notre Dame football a couple years ago when they got absolutely clobbered by Alabama in the national championship game. That would be sad. And you would lose a game earlier, the game to get into the national championship game. So if I'm a Utah fan, I do not want my team to go into the college football playoff. I don't think they can hang on a national level, but they certainly, if they play well all year and can play consistently, They could win the Pac-12. It'd take a lot of work and it'd be a hard feat, but they could win the Pac-12 and get a great bowl game. That, Jack, is what I hope for you and your team. The next two questions are from Dominic and Brady. I'm going to start by reading Dominic's. Dominic says, "Hey, Zach, I hope football's going well for you." Well, I'm done playing football. And I think people know that. I don't know. I'm not blaming you. I get a lot of comments like, "How's football going?" And I'm not playing right now. I left my team. I walked away from the situation I was in. It was painful. It sucked. I hope my team, they play tomorrow. I hope they win. I love my head coach. Love my teammates. There's a lot behind it, and it was painful. I don't want to talk about it anymore. So Dominic says, "Do you think it's too early for Daniel Jones to be starting for the Giants? Should they have given him more time or at least wait for his receivers to be healthy?" That's Dominic's question. Brady says this. Brady says, "Hey, Zach, hope all is well. I was curious what you thought about the benching of Eli Manning. Is it all on him, or was the scheme slash coaching the problem?" So about all this, here's the thing. I think Daniel Jones is probably a better quarterback than Eli Manning. If not better, he's got a better arm, and they're very close. And if Daniel Jones is better in practice, then you cannot deny the team that. If you wait too long to play Daniel Jones, you're going to lose the locker room if you're Pat Shurmur, the head coach of the Giants. Because after a while, when the best guy isn't playing, the team gets frustrated, and the locker room culture suffers. I really think that, playing Eli Manning opens up the playbook for the Giants. DJ has a better arm. Daniel Jones has a better arm. They've been throwing a ton of screens and underneath passes with Eli Manning. They'll do that with Daniel Jones. But we might see some balls more down the field and more stretching in the field from Daniel Jones because he's got a better arm and can throw the ball farther with more velocity. And about Eli Manning, it's just time. It's time to move on. Eli Manning's ceiling has been reached. He's only declining. We're at the very beginning of something great for Daniel Jones. And if he gets better over time and improves, man, the ceiling is special and astronomical. So you got to go with the guy with more upside, especially if they're both average and not great. Daniel Jones makes sense. It's absolutely the right time. I made this comparison earlier in the podcast. I'll do it briefly here. The comparison I make to the Giants benching Eli Manning is like my car. My Toyota Corolla is a 1995 Toyota Corolla with 293,000 miles on it. In about 6,500 miles, I'll have reached 300,000 miles on my engine. My car is incredibly sentimental. It means a lot to me. It was my brother's car. My brother died 3 years ago. When he died, I got his car. And so I don't want to get rid of that car. I've kept that car way longer than I should have because it means a lot to me. But let's be honest about my Toyota Corolla. To keep it in fifth gear, it's a manual. I have to hold the shifter in fifth gear so it doesn't slide out of fifth gear and shift down and go into neutral on the freeway. It's scary. The transmission is slowly failing in my car. And it leaks oil like a pain. It's just awful. It leaks oil like crazy. And the door on the right side doesn't unlock from the outside. It can only unlock the door on the passenger side from the inside of the car. And the front windshield doesn't defrost at all. And for a long time, I've overlooked all these problems because, man, I love that car. It means a lot to me. It's sentimental. But when you have an alternative option, all those problems amplify. And you go like, that windshield thing, the fact I can't see out of my windshield for like 20 minutes without a rag and waiting for it to defrost bothers me a lot. And the fact that I have to hold my car into fifth gear is really frustrating. And if you have an alternative option, those little problems slowly bother you more and more and more until you're like, I'm done. I'm not dealing with this. It's over. Can't handle it. That's what happened with the Giants. They're moving away from a quarterback they love that's incredibly, deeply sentimental and meaningful to them. Eli Manning had great moments with the Giants. 2 Super Bowls. They love him in New York. All these great memories. And in spite of that, it's time to move on because there's a better option. There's a better option on the horizon. So yeah, it's the right time to move on from Eli Manning. It's sad, especially because the Giants are 0-2. The Giants play the Buccaneers this week. They have a great chance. And here's the other part of this whole thing that no one seems to realize. The Giants are 0-2, and they had a bad record last year. Their head coach, Pat Shurmur's trying to keep his job. Bad season last year, an 0-2 start this year. If you have a bad year again this year, you look like a bad head coach. They need to have some kind of hope for the future, and that is what Daniel Jones brings the Giants. That is why the Giants are playing Daniel Jones this week and why he was named their starter. The next question comes from, it's spelled Alon. He's one of my biggest supporters. I assume it's a guy. Alon or Alan. I don't know. I'm going to call you Alon because I think that sounds really cool. And your name's awesome. I don't know how to pronounce it. But man, Alon, I really hope I'm saying your name right. You've been such a big supporter of me for so long. You've supported me on YouTube comments. You now support me on Patreon. Dude, I love you so much. And I'm so grateful for your support. I'm sorry I don't know exactly how to pronounce your name. But I do. I've recognized your name for forever. You're a longtime supporter, and I'm so grateful. So he writes in and says, after 2 weeks of dominating poor teams, how well do you think the 49ers will do? Do you trust Jimmy G? Do I trust Jimmy Garoppolo? No. No, not at all. I will acknowledge he was better week 2 than he was week 1. In week 2, they dominated the Bengals 41-17. But week 1, he missed a lot of easy throws. And as a quarterback, making as much money as he's making, that cannot happen. I am very unimpressed by Jimmy Garoppolo. And trust is built over time through consistency. And the reality is that the 49ers will only go as far as Jimmy Garoppolo takes them. I love the 49ers roster. I love their general manager. I love their head coach. I think they're headed in the right direction. My only question, actually, it's a weird thing to have this much of a question, especially as much as he's paid. My question about the 49ers is Jimmy Garoppolo up to the task? I don't know. We saw a great flash in his first season, went 5-0, and then he was awful last year, and then he got hurt. And then he's been up and down and rocky, and I have a lot of questions. I don't know. I really don't. Expectations are high because of the contract that he signed. And the next 3 weeks, they play the Steelers, the Browns, and the Rams. 3 good teams. Capable teams. Not the best in the NFL, but really good team. The Rams especially. That's a great team. And the Browns are going to put up a lot of points. You got to bring your best. You got to play well against the Browns. And he's going to need to play well if the 49ers are going to win. Jimmy Garoppolo needs to play well for the 49ers to win. And in the next 3 games, Jimmy G has a chance to earn a little bit of trust. But trust is built over time. And right now, Jimmy Garoppolo does not have my trust. The last question is from Gregert. Gregert, I love you. I don't know. I have so many questions about your name, but I think it's awesome. He says, Zach, what are your takeaways from the new NFL coaches, particularly Kingsbury, Fangio, Gase, and LaFleur? I'm just going to go through all 8 coaches, kind of share my thoughts. Number 1, Matt LaFleur with the Green Bay Packers. He's 2-0. They have a really brutal schedule early on. They start their schedule with the Bears, the Vikings, week 1 and 2. Then they're on to the Broncos, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. So having a 2-0 start with the Packers schedule right now is enormous. That's great. The front of their schedule is really hard, and I like what they're doing. They're doing some good offensive stuff. They struggled a little bit, but they're playing, again, the Bears defense and the Vikings defense are phenomenal. We did see a confrontation last week right before halftime between the Packers and the Vikings. Aaron Rodgers and his coach were yelling at each other. My gut, a lot of people are like, is it bad? Is it good? My gut says that that's just what happens in football. Sometimes people yell at each other. It wasn't elongated. And actually, his body language has been fine. I don't know. Now, if you're going to have a concern about last week's game for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, the question is, why didn't they score in the second half? That's concerning. But no, so far, they're off to a great start. Their defense is great. They're 2-0 against 2 good teams. I feel really positive about the Packers head coach, Matt LaFleur. How about the Bengals head coach, Zach Taylor? The Bengals are 0-2. They got smacked by the 49ers. Their defense was awful. And statistically, Andy Dalton isn't terrible at quarterback, but not impressed. It looks not off to a great start. A great start would have been Andy Dalton throws like 4 touchdowns and really impresses me. And he's got to impress me because he's been very subpar and mundane for years. And so I think Zach Taylor deserves more time. The defense is bad. Andy Dalton is meh. And we're kind of in a wait-and-see scenario with Zach Taylor. But right now, I'm not encouraged if I'm a Bengals fan. Are you? Because if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm going, ooh, please, I hope that's not our best. The Broncos and Vic Fangio. I have this problem every time I try to say this guy's name. Vic Fangio. I'm going to call him Fangio. Accept it. Sorry. The Broncos are 0-2. But, man, they were really close to beating the Bears. They've been in both of the games they've played. What was weird is week 1 against the Raiders, they didn't have a sack, and they have 2 great defensive ends, Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. So I hope that improves over the time. But, we'll just got to wait and see what happens with the Broncos. I think they have a chance to do good stuff this year, and we really just kind of got to wait and see. I will say this. Zach Taylor and Vic Fangio are 2 really smart football minds. But there's a difference between being a smart football mind and being a great head coach. Smart football minds make great offensive coordinators. But just because a guy's good at coaching X's and O's does not mean he will make a good head coach. Being a good head coach is about setting the tone, creating a culture. My head coach in college coached linebackers, and that was it. He had a different he delegated to the defensive coordinator, and he had an offensive coordinator. The head coach wasn't a coordinator of anything. He delegated all of it because his job was to set the culture and do all the other there's so much stuff that involves being a head coach. And so Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, Tony Dungy, head coaches, to be a head coach, it requires more than knowing football. Your job is to set the tone and create a culture. And a great example of this is Pat Shurmur, the Giants head coach, was a great offensive coordinator who's really struggled as a head coach. And so with Zach Taylor and Vic Fangio, they might be brilliant football minds, great coordinators who do not do a good enough job setting the tone and creating a culture in their franchise. So they might struggle as head coaches even though they know football really well. That's what I want to see from them. How about the Dolphins? Brian Flores and the Dolphins have been awful. Now, I don't judge Brian Flores at all because I don't think they're trying to win. I think the Dolphins are tanking. I think they do not care about winning. They're trying to get good draft picks and then rebuild next year in the offseason. They're going to be said they were going to be very aggressive in the offseason. So Brian Flores, the Dolphins have been terrible. I don't hold it against them at all because I don't think the Dolphins are actually at all trying to win football games. How about the Browns with Freddie Kitchens? So far, I am unimpressed with the Browns and their head coach. Week 1, they got killed by the Titans. And yeah, they beat the Jets on Monday Night Football. The Jets are terrible. So, is that really an accomplishment? I don't think so. I don't know. I'm worried about the Browns' personalities becoming a problem. This watch thing with Odell Beckham Jr., this dissension, it's not good. And so I have been, to this point, unimpressed with Freddie Kitchens. But again, we're only 2 weeks in. Let's wait and see what happens. The question, though, is can Freddie Kitchens build a good enough culture in Cleveland? That's my question. Cliff Kingsbury's 1-1, 1 loss, 1 tie. But I'm impressed with his quarterback, Kyler Murray. I like his offense. We kind of just got to wait and see again. It's too early to really tell with Cliff Kingsbury. And then the Buccaneers head coach, Bruce Arians, he's 1-1. The concerning thing, though, is I really thought he was going to help their quarterback, Jameis Winston. And so far, Jameis Winston has been really unimpressive, not great at all. So I'm a little bit disappointed that Bruce Arians doesn't seem to be really making the Tampa Bay quarterback better. I guess we just got to wait and find out. But, to this point, I'm sad. And then, Adam Gase with the Jets, his quarterback, Sam Darnold's out with mono. They're down to their third string quarterback, Luke Falk. Here's the thing, though. My concern with the Jets is that their offensive execution has been lackluster. Their defense looks great, actually. I really they can only do so much. If their offense doesn't support them at all, they're screwed. But the defense has actually been solid. They're not awful. Not great, but not awful. But the offense looks at times disorganized. They do the wrong assignments and do the wrong stuff sometimes. Dude, you're the head coach. You got to get this buttoned up. You're supposed to be this offensive genius kind of coach. And Adam Gase isn't getting the job done right now as a coordinator. So I know you're starting quarterbacks out. There's all kinds of excuses that can be made. They don't have great playmakers at wide receiver. They have Robbie Anderson who can run straight, and that's about it. And they have Le'Veon Bell, who great running back. But what do you do with a great running back if you can't throw the ball? I don't know. But right now, my concern with the Jets is that their offense is disorganized and does not look well coordinated. And that's the head coach's job. He's the offensive coordinator. It should be better. So that's how I feel about all the head coaches. The one I've been most impressed with so far has been Matt LaFleur. He's 2-0, 2 big wins. Week 1 with the Bears. Week 2 at Lambeau, hosting the Vikings. 2 great wins. And then Vic Fangio, don't sleep on him. I think, the Broncos have struggled early, but they've been in both of their games, and don't give up on Vic Fangio. They were a couple plays away from beating the Bears last week. That's all I have. Thank you so much for listening. That is Strong Opinion Sports for today. We'll be back on probably Tuesday, because what I'd like to do is a film analysis of Daniel Jones and Josh Rosen, kind of break down their game and what happened. And the film doesn't come out till Monday, so I'll need Monday to review it and look at it. But I am excited for next week. I'll do a show probably Thursday. I don't know yet. Maybe Wednesday. I don't know. I have to be in Pullman, Washington next Friday. And then I'm going to Salt Lake City for the Washington State Wazoo game. And I'm broadcasting that. So I don't know what's going to happen later next week, but expect a podcast on Tuesday. I'll record it in the morning because I'm working on it all weekend and Monday morning. So Tuesday morning I'm recording. Expect that Tuesday afternoon roughly. Hopefully I can get out before you guys leave work and before you drive home. So on your drive home from work on Tuesday, I hope you guys have something to listen to. I hope it's Strong Opinion Sports. Guys, my name is Zach Schaumler. Thank you so very much for your support. I appreciate you guys so much. Please remember to help me grow by telling your friends about the show. My name is Zach Schaumler. Bam, we are done.